Hi, my name's Taylor. I'm a senior on the beach team. This is episode 4 of Beyond the Sand, and today we are talking to our Director of Sports Performance and Strength Coach, Brock McMichael.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Brock McMichael, Director of Sports Performance here at Catawba College.
So, Brock, how long have you been a strength and conditioning specialist?
Well, I've worked in the fitness industry now for a little over 10 years, and I started out earlier when I was younger in college in the personal training, one-on-one clients, and then kind of worked my way up from there into group training, adult fitness, youth athletes, but I've worked in collegiate athletics now for a little over 4 years.
Nice. Okay. Have you always known that you wanted to work at this collegiate level, like high level performance, or is there ever a time that you're like, I'm good with personal training, I want to stay here?
Yeah, I think the diversity of my career background has kind of helped me determine what I want to be doing in the long term, and having been able to work with all different levels of clients, like I said, from individual adult classes and one-on-one training to youth to college and high school athletes. I've had a chance to work with every form of athlete and individual that there is, and I've just found the most relationship with working with college athletics. And from someone who grew up playing sports my entire life, one of the big motives for me to work in college athletics specifically is because I was never fortunate to play college athletics. Unfortunately, I wasn't that gifted on the field. But I knew that one thing that I was missing throughout my athletic career was the physical development and the demands that I don't feel like I was able to meet or to keep up with to continue competing at a high level. So I think as I started to learn more about the profession and about the science behind training and just having a love and a passion for the weight room, I was able to learn how to combine the two facets and then understand how I could develop my passion into a career and work to help other athletes achieve those goals to help them stay successful and healthy out on the field or the court.
Yeah. I think it's a classic, those that can't really do teach, and I think you guys do an awesome job of that. Now that you've been with us for, especially our team, for about like a year, how would you say your relationship is with our coaches and like the choices you've made so far at Catawba?
I think we have a really close relationship between myself, my staff, and all the coaches here at Catawba. We try to stay in constant communication and up to date with what coaches expect to see out of their teams from a development standpoint in the off season and all the way year round through their season as well. And like I said, it all goes down to communication and making sure that we understand what their goals are for the team and what the demands are that they expect out of their team, and we try to help deliver on those promises.
I think you guys do an awesome job collaborating too. Like I said, as like a member of the beach team, I know our coaches really do a great job of instilling that we're running our program as close as we can to like a D1 and professional program because they have that experience and they know what it takes from us. So I think, yeah, they expect a lot of us, but you guys do an awesome job of always communicating that and always giving us the space to like grow and perform that way, which is something not a lot of schools have, I think. Like you said, you are director of sports performance here at school, so you're in charge of a lot of high-level teams like football, track, baseball, even our indoor team. But beach volleyball is kind of a unique sport, so what would you say are the specific demands of beach that people might not expect, or what could you translate from beach to the weight room?
So I think one thing that's interesting about our career that not many other people understand or that they assume right away is that we don't have to make the weight room look exactly like your sport on the field or on the court. So yes, there are some interesting details about the individual training philosophies that we have for each of our teams here, and not every team is doing the same workout, but in some form or fashion along the way, strength training is strength training. We need to develop strength. We need to develop power, we need to develop speed, and that's something that all athletes need. So there's very similar qualities across the board that all of our teams are going to hit some form of training on during their off season and during the in season. But from watching the sport on the court and watching beach volleyball and speaking with coaches and getting to build a relationship with the athletes is what helps us understand what you need as an individual that's going to help you accelerate at your sport specific to what you do versus what the football team does or the baseball team or track and field. There's tons of different ways to train each athlete, but at the end of the day, you're all sort of training for the same goal in mind.
Yeah, okay, that answer. So with that being said, I know you also work with the indoor team. You've worked with us both for about a year. What's like the difference in energy that you see from us beach volleyball players, like in the weight room and on the court?
Well, I think that was something I was interested to learn about both teams when I came to work here, working with beach volleyball and indoor volleyball teams, because I'd never worked one-on-one with either sport before in my career. Like, I've seen it from a distance, and I've known strength coaches who work with those volleyball teams, but I didn't really know what I was getting myself into when it comes to the culture side of things. Like, what are these athletes going to be like? And I think right away I learned that both teams are very high energy and passionate about being in the weight room, which I was shocked by. I thought I might have to pull some teeth here and there. And, truth be told, there's some days where it's just a grind, and I think all athletes understand that. So you're not going to get high energy every single day, but as humans, we understand that we can't have that high energy or that kind of motivation every single day, which is okay. And I think it helps to have that perspective from my end, because then I know where to meet you in the middle on any given day. So if I realize that your team's coming in slow, or we're sluggish, or we need a little pick me up, then I know how to get the juices flowing. Or if it's a day where we're really beat up, like yesterday, you guys came in and we've been doing a lot of hard testing and a lot of hard training. I know when it's okay to pull back on the reins and say, we're just going to do mobility today, 30 minutes, let's stretch out, help your bodies recover, and let's get back to work next week.
Yeah, I think a few of me and our other seniors as well on our team, we always try to really instill into like our younger players, like our freshmen too, that like the weight room is fun. It can be fun. It's a great opportunity to also just like put in a lot of work. Like, sure, stuff might be serious on the court, and like there is a time and place for everything, but like we do like to let loose in the weight room, which I don't think is really expected of our team, but I do kind of love it because it makes things more interesting.
Yeah, and I think it really helps too when I develop closer relationships that are more personal with you guys as athletes, and you understand that the weight room doesn't have to be this dark and scary place, and you're not going to come in and I'm not going to ask you to do 400-pound power cleans. I'm not going to put you through the same list as the football team. Yeah. And I think through time there becomes a trust barrier that's broken down, and the more vulnerable we become as coaches with our relationships with the athletes, I think the more buy-in that we get for the program that we're trying to build. And then after that, then we get better results, and you start to see the success on the court, and then it creates this continuous loop where you understand that I do know what I'm talking about, and the weight room is good for you, and then it continues to repeat itself, and we continue to grow from there.
I know I've definitely seen that over the summer. I had an internship over at UCF that Brock was so kind to speak highly of me for, and I definitely saw that in real time, which is just crazy just how far trust can really go, because I remember working with one of the freshman teams and just seeing how they were just so quiet, and like it felt like they were feeling watched, and like we just constantly had to remind them like, hey, like this is fun, like this can be fun, like it's an opportunity for like, sure, we're giving you stuff to do, but it's also collaboration at the end of the day. And like once you feel comfortable enough to be yourself, like I feel like that's when the results really start to come through, which is like awesome. Especially it's just great. But like you mentioned, like you know when to pull the reins. Like we had mobility yesterday. It was really nice, relaxing. We played some rain sounds. Do you want to talk a little bit about the testing we've been doing our team? Like I know you and our coaches collaborated for that. You want to talk about the test battery and the selection you guys kind of went through, and what was your thought process behind that?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate here to have a partnership with our exercise science department, where they have Hawken Dynamics force plates, which not a lot of schools have access to. And luckily, in the history of my career, I've been able to work with the sports science technology to understand how to test athletes and how to measure for certain things to help impact the training, and help us understand how to better program individual qualities for the athletes to help you become better at your sport, like we talked about earlier, how it's specific to you as an individual athlete. So two of the tests that we're doing on the force plates are a counter movement jump test, and we do that with your hands on your hips so we can get a closer look at your total lower body power output. And although it's just a jump, those force plates tell us a lot of things about the mechanics of your lower body musculature, and where strengths and weaknesses are, from power and speed, and lower body asymmetries left to right side, and we can get all kinds of insight from that data there. And then another test that we're running is an isometric mid-thigh pull. So we hook you into a bar that doesn't move up against a rack, and you get into like a quarter squat position basically, and you try to pull that bar as hard as you can. And with that test, we're trying to test for total force output, and that's a testament to an athlete's strength. The more strength you can produce in less time, the better well-rounded athlete you're going to become. And then on the court, we were doing a T test to measure agility. So it's a sprint, shuffle, back pedal drill. And we're going to retest that later this week. So we'll get a feel for how all agility or change of direction speed has improved over the off season. And then Coach Seuss has been leading a really great program to get the conditioning up for the team outside of what you do during practice. In game preparation, we're doing a lot more conditioning this season than we were last off season, including some incline sprints, some longer aerobic capacity running, things like that. So I would say it's a very holistic program where we're working in the weight room to develop those muscular and those speed and power qualities. And then on the court, we're working on those cardio qualities, because beach volleyball is not just a one or the other sport. You have to be strong and you have to have power and quickness, but you also have to be able to repeat that strength and repeat that power set after set after set. And it can be very long days sometimes. So you have to have that cardio background as well to be able to raise that threshold of how long you're able to show your strength and show your power. And if you can show those strengths longer than the other team, you're probably going to set yourself up for a better chance of winning against the other team.
I think that's well said. I know a lot of the days when I'm in conditioning and I'm like, dang, this really sucks. But I know it's going to pay off, because in that third set, when the score is over 15 and I feel like my legs are jello, I'm probably going to feel a little better than I did last year because of how much work we're putting in. And I think that's awesome. And I want to touch on like the Hawkins stuff, because I know I've had to use it in my past in the internship. And I really like how, I know yesterday we went over some of like my results personally, because we all had the opportunity to talk to you about our scores, because this is the second time we've done testing. And like, I know personally for me, I was like, I rescored like the same scores and I was really angry, because I was like, dang, I feel like I'm improving, but like I'm not seeing the results. And I just want you to kind of break down a little more what it's really measuring, because it measures a lot of stuff. And I know like, even though I was hitting the same scores, I was like hitting them faster and hitting them better. But like at the time during the test, like I was like, oh, well, I didn't know I was doing that. Like that was really frustrating. So stuff like that, what are we really looking for on those jumps? Like when you're measuring them to determine, like with our results, like what are you really looking for?
Yeah, so when you look at something like jump height, that's an output metric,
Mhm.
right? So that's just the score that you get. It's the result of a million other things occurring in your body at one time to produce that jump height. Like, so without getting too scientific, right? Like your body has to go through different muscle contractions. You have to produce force in different directions. You change directions multiple times during a jump, right? You go down and then you have to reaccelerate and then go back up. So that force plate is telling us how you achieved that number, basically. So for you to see a jump height kind of repeat itself, remember we looked at your average from 8 weeks ago versus your average at the beginning of the week.
Mhm.
Minor change in the height itself and the output, but when you look at the drivers behind that, we call these driver metrics. It's everything else that affects how you're able to produce that result. We were looking at your change of direction speed, your eccentric rate of force development. So how quickly are you able to decelerate your speed on the way down and then reaccelerate that speed on the way back up? We looked at your takeoff velocity. So how fast were you pushing when you jumped off the plates? Your time to take off is another big metric that I think is indicative of agility and change of direction. So from the second that you start moving down to create your jump to the second your feet leave those plates, that's the time that it took you to complete that movement. So that tells me how quickly can you change directions. If you're standing in an athletic position on the court and the ball is coming over the net, how quickly can you get from point A to point B faster than the ball is getting there, faster than the defender on the other side to try to make a play? So if I look at something that shows me how efficiently you can change directions, I can better implement training programs that are going to help you apply it to your sport and, affect that change of direction stuff like I was talking about. But everything that underlies how you were able to produce those output metrics. So I showed you, you may have had the same jump height, but everything that allowed you to jump that height, you may have jumped the same height, but you're doing all of that faster than you were doing it 8 weeks ago, which for me, for a beach volleyball team, the way I see it is you're jumping on sand. Most of the time, it doesn't matter how high you jump. It's different than indoor, but how quickly you can get from point A to point B, or how quickly you can produce movement, or how quickly you can accelerate to get one place on the court or another is more important than how high you can jump. So for me, if you can jump the same height but do it more efficiently, we're improving.
Yeah, I think super well said. I know yesterday when we talked about it, we compared it a lot with indoor. like indoor players, they need like really strong tendons and ligaments, but for us as beach players, like we need really strong muscles because of how much we are enduring during our match. And like you said, like all we're really focusing on with these tests is just like how fast we can be, like for change of direction, rate of force development, I think is huge. So I think this is going to be great for our programming. Is there anything specific about our sport that you found to either be like more fun or frustrating when determining programs and stuff? Because like I said, like when we're in the sand, it's not like you can kind of just like give us like the same stuff you get for indoor, because like the sand kind of just like sucks everything out of you, you know, like you're not bouncing off like you are on the floor. So how has that been like for your programming and coaching?
Yeah, I think the key difference that you're referring to here is obviously the surface that you play on. So playing on the beach in the sand is going to be a lot different than playing on a court. Your body is only able to produce force so reactive when you're on a hard surface versus the sand, which quite literally sucks the life out of you because
Yeah.
there's no substance to the floor beneath you. It's moving, it's changing versus a court that's hard and stiff and reactive. So the way that our body moves on a hard surface versus a soft surface is completely different in how we're able to produce force and move and accelerate and speed up and slow down and things like that. So what you mentioned earlier was correct. When I'm focusing on the indoor team, a lot of the stuff that we're doing is focused on speed and reactiveness between the muscle and the tendon relationship, and muscle tendon stiffness, rate of force development, things like that. But with beach volleyball, because the sand doesn't allow for those same reactive qualities, I'm more focused on how do I keep your muscles strong and healthy to be able to produce higher forces than the sand that's moving and helping, or that's affecting the stability of the ground beneath me. And I think you have to be more muscularly dominant to be an efficient beach volleyball player versus more tendon and more stiffness dominant, more quick twitch, more bouncy, like we talked about on the court.
Yeah, definitely strength over twitchiness for our sport, I feel, because it just takes a lot out of you. But that's like one of the beautiful things about our sport, you know? Um, but lastly, I would just like to ask, what would you have to say to any athletes that want to reach their fullest potential in like strength and conditioning in the weight room, whether that be like athletes that are looking to pursue this career or just athletes that are in the college level but like might feel stuck?
Like in regard to the career or just success
You
in
can do
general?
both. Like just like say for me, like instance, like I know I want to do what you do, but also like for maybe one of our other teammates or whatever who just maybe feels like they're not quite hitting like all they can hit in the weight room.
Yeah, so I tell this to all my athletes at the beginning of every off season, and it's a quote that I learned growing up as I was finding myself and developing as a mature individual through my career, and I wish I would have learned this lesson earlier on. And it's printed out on the top of all of my lift cards and mobility sheets and warm ups. But effort, consistency, and discipline make an unbeatable combination for success. And what that means is that you have to show up and you have to try day after 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 day, even on the days that you don't want to. And I can't stress how important that is because the most successful athletes, it's like a switch that flips for them when they understand that if I want to be great, then this is a job that I have to be committed to. And a few good days out of the week aren't going to add up to finding success. And I think that goes so far beyond the sport. I think, as all athletes will understand, one day your sport is going to come to an end at some point, whether you like it or not, whether you go pro or not. You're going to have to find what it takes to survive in this world once sports comes to an end. And I think if you can develop that work ethic and that mindset, then you can become unstoppable in the real world. And I think that is something that is very easily transferable. Because as I don't play sports anymore, I still understand what it takes to work a busy schedule, early mornings, late nights, and still find balance to take care of myself and find balance between my work and my life and my social life, and my own fitness journey and keeping myself healthy at the same time as being responsible for keeping hundreds of athletes healthy. And I think it's just a hardened mindset that you have to learn to develop, and understanding that if you work your tail off consistently on the days that you don't want to, you will find success whether you like it or not. And that will help guide you through whatever path you may be going down, whether it's sports or career in life. if you can find ways to be disciplined, you will find a way to be successful.
Very well said. I agree. I mean, I think a biggest example of that was when you were with us at 6 a.m. 3 times a week last year in the fall season. And there were plenty of days I know that me and my teammates were like, wow, this is like a drag. But if we can do this, if we can do conditioning in the sand close to like 40-degree weather, it's really not that bad and you can really do anything. And I think that's a big thing is the idea of stuff always seems way scarier than actually doing it. And I think our strength staff and our coaching staff here at school do a great job of just like being really good role models and examples of that. Because you guys do the hard things. Like you do this stuff, you do it in front of us at practice, or we can see it online, or like we know your history. And I think that's also a great part of the trust that we have between our team and our coaches, is because we see the things that you can do, and it really just instills a different kind of confidence and faith that we have in our program and in our players.
Yeah.
So,
I think you bring up a really good point too. Like when you guys endure the hard stuff, especially at this level, I think you learn what it takes to work hard. And the cool thing is what we're asking you to do really isn't that hard.
Yeah.
And you'll learn when you get out in the real world one day that the world isn't fair. And I don't want to make the podcast like dark or anything, but like unfortunately bad stuff happens sometimes and you're going to be put in tough situations all throughout your life. And it's never going to be sunshine and rainbows, but as a student athlete, you have so much on your plate between studies and practice and film and meetings and diet and sleep and everything under the sun. And if you can find how to build a routine and find work-life balance as a student athlete, you're going to set yourself up for success for the rest of your life because you're going to understand what it takes to be resilient and what it takes to push through hard times. And that's what I love about this job is that some people don't look past the sets and the reps and the weight. And when I'm trying to drive a point home, some athletes will either take it personal or they'll take it as a life lesson. And it's not just about winning on the court or on the field for me. Like I want to help develop good quality people for the world and not just for helping you be successful on the court, but helping you be successful and learn life lessons that are going to help you all throughout your life and your career.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a big thing that I know all of our players can see in the weight room, like as far as your training philosophy is that like not only do you care about us as athletes, but you care about us as individuals. And I know I probably got a little taste of this over the summer with my internship when I was like waking up at like 4:30 to get there at 6, and I'd have to work like 5 hours, and then I'd have to do my lift for you because we would have our Brazil trip that I wanted to do so well on and feel like mentally and physically prepared for. And I loved every single moment of it. There wasn't a single day when I woke up and I was like, this isn't like, I don't feel good. Like, this isn't a bad day. Like, no matter what time I went to bed, I was like, I love this. Like, I'm doing what I want to do. Like, everything feels like it's kind of set up for me and like is going in the right direction. And I think a thing that student athletes might just forget is to just like love every single moment of it. Like, it's not about the destination like classic, it's about the journey. And I think that really does get you through the extra hard days where it feels like it sucks. If you just remind yourself that like, I'm here, I want to do this, I love this, like it get 10 times easier. And then you realize you can do literally anything.
Right. And a part of that journey too is understanding and being okay with the fact that you're not going to wake up every morning and say, I love waking up at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, true.
I love going to the gym. I love lifting weights. I love eating chicken and rice for every not every meal. Don't take that too serious.
Yeah.
But to make a point, it's okay to wake up and not want to do it. But that's a part of the process and the journey of learning discipline and understanding what it takes to be successful. Like doing the easy stuff isn't going to help you be successful. Sometimes it's going to be hard. And if you can respond when the going gets tough, you're going to be all right. But I would be lying to you if I told you I woke up this morning at 4 a.m. and I said, I love my job.
That's true.
It's tough sometimes, and you're not always going to want to do it. And you're not always going to want to go to the gym. You're not always going to want to do the tough stuff, especially when you get tired, which is so easy to happen when you have all this other stuff going on as student athletes. And that's okay. We understand that as coaches, and we try to help you work around those things by changing the workouts or changing practice plans or doing whatever we got to do to help accommodate. But when you start to learn what it's like to face a challenge and how you choose to respond to it is what makes you an individual and what helps you mature into a better member of society, you know?
Yeah, I think how you respond is always so huge, and I know we've changed our slogan this year as like bigger than beach, which I think is huge. It just really instills that discipline and resilience that we're trying to build in our program, and I think we've so far set all the pieces in the right place, and I'm just happy to see how it comes about. It's still early in the preseason, but I'm really excited to see what we can do in spring because I think we're going to be like 1,000 times better than we were last year. And even last year, I saw us getting like better every single week in spring once Susan Oliver came along. So I'm just really excited to see how we end up.
Hey, thanks for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'll see you on Friday for lift.
Yep, see you for our T test on Friday.